Dear students, greetings for the day. Today we will discuss about history of aviation world. The history of aviation extends for more than 2000 years, from the earliest forms of aviation such as kites and attempts at tower jumping to supersonic and hypersonic flight by powered, heavier-than-air jets. Aviation is the activities surrounding mechanical flight and the aircraft industry. Aircraft includes fixed-wing and rotary-wing types, movable wings, wingless lifting bodies, as well as lighter-than-air craft such as hot air balloons and airships. Aviation began in the 18th century with the development of the hot air balloon, an apparatus capable of atmospheric displacement through buoyancy. Some of the most significant advancements in aviation technology came with the controlled gliding flying of Otto Lilienthal in 1896. Then a large step in significance came with the construction of the first powered airplane by the Wright brothers in the early 1900s. Since that time, aviation has been technologically revolutionized by the introduction of the jet, which permitted a major form of transport throughout the world. Who started aviation? History of aviation. On December 17, 1903, Orville and Wilbur Wright capped 4 years of research and design efforts with the 120-foot, 12-second flight at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, the first powered flight in a heavier-than-air machine. Prior to that, people had flown only in balloons and gliders. In about 1490, Leonardo da Vinci drew plans for a flying machine. Father of aviation? Sir George Cayley is the man described by aviation experts as the father of aeronautics. He designed his first aircraft in 1799, and by the middle of the 19th century, he was building and flying gliders. He paved the way for the Wright brothers and all the aviators who followed. The Wright brothers became wealthy businessmen and filled contracts for airplanes in both Europe and the United States. Today, the Wright brothers are considered the fathers of modern aviation. The brothers always shared credit for their work, and also maintained a close relationship throughout their lives. Construction of the sustaining wings. The problem of lift. The dream of human flight must have begun with observation of birds soaring through the sky. Beginning in the 1870s, Otto Lilienthal, a German mechanical engineer, undertook the most important studies of wing design since the time of Cayley. His detailed measurements of the forces operating on a cambered wing at various angles of attack provided precise bits of data employed by later experimenters, including, in the United States, the engineer Octave Chanute and the Wright brothers, to calculate the performance of their own wings. Balancing and steering the machine. The problem of control. The Wright brothers created a positive control system that enabled, indeed, required, the pilot to exercise absolute command over the motion of his machine in every axis and at every moment. Other aviation pioneers, the Brazilian experimenter Alberto Santos Dumont, for instance, made the first public flight in Europe in 1906 in his 14 bis. Frenchman Henri Farman made his first flight the following year in the Farman 3, a machine built by Gabriel Voisin. One of the earliest airline organizations, a British group called Air Transport and Travel Limited, acquired several Echo D.H.4A8 single-engine planes, designed by Geoffrey de Havilland, powered by 350 horsepower Eagle V-type engines from Rolls-Royce Limited. Among the most popular private aircraft models were the two-seat Piper Cub, powered by a 65-horsepower engine that enabled a cruising speed of about 85 miles (140 kilometers) per hour, the four-seat Cessna Airmaster, powered by a 145 to 165 horsepower engine that enabled a cruising speed of about 160 miles (260 kilometers) per hour, and the 7 to 9 passenger Beechcraft Model 18, powered by two 450 horsepower engines that enable a cruising speed of about 220 miles (350 kilometers) per hour. Cessna and Beechcraft still used radial piston engines, but Piper relied on a horizontally opposed four-cylinder engine that allowed engineers to design a more streamlined engine nacelle. This type of engine became the preferred style for modern light plane designs. Other developments included E. or Sikorsky's work on practical piston engine helicopters. Technological precedents in the 1930s included the Autogiro, which used an unpowered rotor for lift and a piston engine with propeller for forward flight. Through the 1950s, Piper and Cessna marketed high-wing monoplanes with 2 to 4 seats, suitable for short-range personal business flying. Beechcraft introduced the stylish all-metal V-tailed Bonanza, with retractable landing gear, higher speed, and a roomy four-place cabin. Manufacturers installed a new generation of compact lightweight radio communication and navigational equipment, eventually dubbed avionics, that improved options to fly during bad weather. The jet age origins from the very invention of flight at the beginning of the 20th century. Military aircraft and engines generally led the way, and commercial aviation followed. Commercial jet aircraft have revolutionized world travel, opening up every corner of the world not just to the affluent but to the ordinary citizens of many countries. Two stages in the jetliner's development marked the 1960s. The first was the adoption of the turbofan engine. The turbofan gains economy by having much of its thrust pass around the engine core rather than through it. The second stage was marked by the introduction of the wide-bodied, 400-seat Boeing 747 in 1969. This large, swift, and long-range aircraft created a transportation revolution. Whereas air travel had once been confined to the affluent, it now became a mass-market conveyance as airline ticket prices fell and airlines became more sophisticated in their pricing practices. As the total market grew, smaller jet and turboprop airliners were developed for shorter routes. In spite of the intense nature of the competition to build jet airliners, a new entrant appeared in the early 1970s following intense industrial and political negotiations. Airbus industry was co-owned by French, German, British, Spanish, Dutch, and Belgium companies and subcontracted many parts to still other countries. Established in December 1970 to build the Airbus A300 wide-bodied twin. However, its aircraft were widely accepted, and a series of designs followed that established a family of aircraft that matched Boeing's offerings and, with the introduction of the A380 in 2005, threatened to exceed them. The Airbus family marched steadily forward in size, number, and utility until it consisted of no fewer than 14 different series of aircraft. Complaints from the United States that Airbus was being subsidized by the various European governments was countered by the charge that American manufacturers were in effect subsidized by their sale of aircraft to the U.S. military and by National Aeronautics and Space Administration (NASA) research. Airbus A320 short to medium-range jetliner, which first flew in 1987 and went into commercial service the next year. The aircraft typically accommodates 150 passengers. Its success led to a family of derivative aircraft of varying passenger capacities, including the A318, A319, and A321. Top executive jets, including the Boeing business jet, a variation of the 737, the Bombardier Global Express, the Dassault Falcon 900, and the Gulfstream 500-550, featured intercontinental range and high subsonic speeds. During the jet age, avionics, a coined term meaning aviation electronics, has seen a rapid growth in every aspect, including navigation, instrumentation, communication, safety, and landing assistance. In the area of passenger support, the jet age excelled in the ticketing process and in the creation of large terminals, but in the view of many experienced travelers it regressed in the area of onboard comfort. Seating became more restricted, and the rapid retrieval of baggage seemed to remain an unsolvable problem. To some extent, onboard electronics compensated for these inconveniences by providing amenities such as telephones, television, and the Internet. Most travelers, however, would settle for a little more hip and leg room. Safety is one area in which there has been continual progress, with military and commercial aviation having vastly improved their safety records by any measure. Air traffic control, the supervision of the movements of all aircraft, both in the air and on the ground, in the vicinity of an airport,